Hello and welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're diving headfirst into one of the most wild, most captivating theories out there. The idea that aliens didn't just visit our ancient ancestors, they helped build our world. It's a concept that's been debated for decades, and honestly, it just seems to get more popular over time.
It all starts with one huge, earth-shattering question. What if everything we've been taught in our history books is incomplete? What if the gods and heavenly beings our ancestors wrote about weren't gods at all, but visitors from another world?
Okay, so let's start with one of the biggest poster children for this theory, the Nazca lines in Peru. We're talking about absolutely massive drawings etched into the desert floor. So big, you can only really see what they are from way up in the sky. So you gotta ask, who were they for?
So let's get right into it. What is the ancient astronaut theory really? Let's break down the core belief here.
So, at its heart, the idea is this. Thousands of years ago, intelligent beings from outer space came to Earth, and they didn't just observe us from afar. Oh no. They made contact, and they actively guided our development, maybe even kickstarted our technology, our culture, our very biology. It's a pretty radical thought, right? It challenges basically everything we think we know.
And this is where it gets really wild. Proponents of the theory, most famously a guy named Erich von Däniken, look at those Nazca lines and say, that's not art. Those aren't religious pathways. He suggested they were landing strips, runways for extraterrestrial spacecraft. I mean, that's a bold claim, and believe me, we're just getting started.
All right, but it's not just about giant drawings in the desert. Proponents say the proof is also hidden in plain sight, in some of our oldest and most sacred stories. So let's take a look.
Okay, so let's take the book of Genesis. There's a really strange passage in there that talks about beings called the Nephilim. They're described as giants born from the union of the sons of God and human women. Now, the traditional view is that this is a story about angels, but the ancient astronaut theory says, hold on a second, what if the sons of God weren't angels, but aliens, and the Nephilim were their human-alien hybrid offspring?
And it's not just one text, right? This pattern, they say, pops up all over the world. You look at ancient Sumerian myths and you find the Enonoani, gods from the sky who supposedly created humans to be their labor force to mine gold for them. In the Hindu epic, the Ramayana, they talk about these incredible flying machines called Vimanas. And the ancient book of Enoch describes watchers who descend from the heavens to teach humanity advanced knowledge. The theory argues these aren't just myths, they're eyewitness accounts.
Okay, so let's jump forward a bit, because this isn't just some old theory from the 70s. It's constantly evolving, with new claims and new interpretations of ancient art popping up all the time. Let's look at a very recent one.
For instance, a paper just came out that makes some pretty incredible claims about carvings at a temple in India. The authors are arguing that this carving right here isn't a god. They say it's an astronaut, clear as day, wearing a helmet and working on some kind of advanced device. They even point out that the way the figure is floating looks a lot like someone in zero gravity.
But wait, it gets even weirder. The very same paper highlights this carving of a monkey-like creature. Their interpretation? This is evidence of ancient experiments with primates in space, kind of like the tests that were done in the early days of our own space programs. It's a fascinating leap, to say the least.
So you see what's happening here, right? The authors of this paper are basically playing detective, connecting the dots between all these different carvings. They're trying to build a bigger story, suggesting this temple isn't just full of religious art, but that it's an ancient record of some pretty advanced scientific work. It's a perfect example of how this theory operates in the modern day.
So that brings up a huge question. How did this go from a fringe idea in some books to this massive global TV phenomenon? What turned ancient astronauts into primetime entertainment? Well, the answer might actually come from a really surprising admission by the main man himself, Giorgio Tsoukalos, the face of the Ancient Aliens TV show. He once said in an interview that sometimes the show covers topics that are completely new to him, which he thinks is great because it means there's always more material out there. And then he explained how that happens. The show's producers are constantly digging through libraries and archives, looking for new mysteries they can feature. Then they bring these new ideas to the experts on the show to get their take. So, think about what that means. It's not just the theorists driving the narrative, it's a media machine that needs to be fed with fresh, exciting content to keep us all watching.
Okay, we've heard the claims, we've seen the proof, and we've seen how it gets packaged for TV. But what does the mainstream academic world, the historians, the archaeologists, what do they have to say about all this?
Well, to put it bluntly, the scientific community pretty much labels the whole thing as pseudoscience. And what that means is, while it might use scientific-sounding language, it doesn't really play by the rules of science.
It doesn't rely on testable, verifiable evidence or build on what we already know to be fact.
And this chart really lays it all out, side by side. For just about every claim the ancient astronaut theory makes, there's a more down-to-earth explanation from mainstream science. Those Nazca lines? Archaeologists think they were ceremonial pathways for rituals. Those strange, elongated skulls you sometimes see? A cultural practice called cranial deformation. And the flying Vimanas? Almost certainly powerful mythological symbols, not literal blueprints for flying machines.
So at the end of the day, maybe the biggest question isn't, is it true? Maybe the more interesting question is, why do we want it to be true? What if the popularity of these stories says less about our distant past and more about us, right now? About our deep-seated need for wonder, for mystery, and for that feeling that we're part of something truly cosmic?